Hi there, and welcome to another episode of Weekly Wellness. I'm your host, Amy Green, and today with me is Linda Donalds. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
Here.
I'm glad you have me on.
Linda is a hypnotist.
A hypnotist.
Okay, hypnotist,
yes.
and you also coach with HypnoBirthing.
Exactly.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about hypnosis, because I want to debunk any myths about people thinking that, you're going to stand up in front of a group of people and act like a chicken on stage,
Right.
Which is, I think, the perception that most people have.
There are a lot, although a lot of my clients have, realized more about hypnosis and its benefits and stuff, and have let go of many fears. But yeah, there are still a lot of fears and myths and misconceptions about hypnosis out there. So sure, we can talk about hypnosis to start with. Well, I've been doing hypnosis since 1998, so a little over 15 years now. And, and I've worked with a lot of people on a lot of different issues. I'm here to talk about hypnobirthing classes, but I also work with people for weight loss and smoking cessation and pain management and stress relief. That's kind of all-encompassing. Everybody has a lot of stress in their lives. And so hypnosis helps with a lot of things. And so hypnosis is something that has really been around a very, very, very long time. We say it goes back to the beginning of man. It's a natural ability that everybody has. It's a state that we get into even sometimes several times during the day. And a lot of people don't realize that the state, which I'll explain a couple ways where you might recognize that you've experienced it already today, a lot of people don't realize that when they're in the state that it's the same state that I refer to when I speak of hypnosis. It's a state where your attention becomes very concentrated on something to the point where you often tune out your surroundings. You get very focused. You do that when you daydream. You do that when you drive a car, when you read a book. And when you get on your computer, when you sit down to watch TV, you tend to get so focused on something that you're paying attention to that you tune out your surroundings and you become very engrossed in what you're doing. In a therapeutic setting, like when I work with my clients, I also help them to use a lot of relaxation in that state. So a lot of people associate hypnosis with a very relaxed state, but that's not always the case. It's really about this concentration and enhancement of their imagination. Their imagination becomes much more vivid. And they also become more receptive to receiving suggestions. In the case when they come to me, I'm giving them positive suggestions.
Okay, right.
But when you're driving your car or doing some of these other activities, the suggestions that you receive are usually ones from yourself. Do your own kind of self-hypnosis. And those thoughts are usually just reinforcing your thoughts, feelings, and beliefs that you already have. You might get them from another person that's around you when you get into that state, which ties into the hypnobirthing because, different people that, talk to mothers who are expecting babies, they have quite an influence on expecting mothers.
Right, and that's why it's not always good. Good, we talked about when, people all excited about, a new mommy and, then just want to share horror stories about how, what their birth was like.
They want to tell their birth story.
Right, yes.
And it's nice when the birth stories are positive and encouraging and helps build the confidence of the mother. But that's not always the case. They have stories that family members and friends want to tell, and even the strangers in the grocery store have stories to share. And especially if they're a first-time mom. And everybody's been a first-time mom. At some point you have to do this the first time, and you get very much influenced by people's stories because you don't know what's coming. You don't really know what to expect, so you listen intently to people's stories and to the medical professionals, to the doctors and nurses, and you're relying on them to help you get through this process. So you become very receptive to things that people say in that state. You also do, like I mentioned before, you will go into a light state of hypnosis when you watch TV or movies, and we've got portrayals of births on there, which those ones are also modified a bit to create drama for TV, but you get influenced by that as well.
Right, and that directly, that imprints right on the newborn.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, still,
babies are very much aware of what's going on in the womb. They're aware of their surroundings. They can hear. they can perceive a lot of things. They may not be able to use all of their senses really well, like seeing. They can only see so far, and touch is whatever's in the womb, and taste and smell. But they have a good perception of what they can hear, and they also really pick up on the emotions of the mother. So whatever the mother's feeling and other people around them, they can judge and feel what's going on around them.
Right.
So,
well, they're an energy being as well.
yes,
so
they
I
pick
mean,
up on all the energy.
Right, all that vibration of energy.
They also don't necessarily distinguish between the mother's emotions and feelings and her energy and theirs. They're very much intertwined. And so sometimes when the mother's feeling something, the baby will feel it like it's their own. So they're very much connected to the mother. So.
Right. And is it, I mean, I know that you provide, you know, the women that you teach with a little button that, you know, cautions them about, you know, about sharing stories. But is it appropriate as a new mom to say to somebody, you know, this is my first time. I'm trying really good about being positive about the birth. So save your stories. I mean, I guess you have to get comfortable.
The button here, in case, I don't know if he zoomed in to give it a close up, but it says, please, only happy birth stories. My baby is listening. You know, so the idea is, like, if you have a negative story that had some kind of trauma or anything, particularly ones that have pain in them, you know, that you don't want to hear those stories. You don't want to get influenced. That was that person's experience, and it doesn't need to be your own. The stories you do want to hear are the ones that somebody had an amazing birth, something went incredibly well, or how they felt very confident or comfortable, and those kinds of things, because you're going to be influenced by good and bad stories. You might as well have the benefits of the good stories.
The good, right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, let's talk about the HypnoBirthing.
Yeah.
Because I know you've got a program. You're housed now, or a program starting up at the...
At Health Alliance.
Okay,
yeah,
the
we're going to be
Complementary Care
teaching
Center.
it on the Fitchburg campus, Burbank campus, as well as at the Leominster campus.
Okay.
We're going to try to alternate it between it. I also teach them at Emerson as well, but we're here on Fitchburg cable access, so yeah, Health Alliance. And we have, I don't know when this episode will air, but the next set of classes, there's 5 classes, and they'll start in November.
Okay.
And I'll be continuing to offer them, you know, every one series ends, pick up another, but it's 5 classes. I've been trying to hold them on Monday nights. I don't know if it'll always be Monday going in the future, but that's where we're at now. And the classes are 2.5 hours long each.
Okay.
So they spend quite a number of hours with me, each couple. It's the mother and her birth companion. That's usually the father, but it could be a mother or a sister or a doula, or, you know, somebody else that they feel, you know, a good friend that they want with them. So,
and is it a group class?
Yeah, it's a group class.
Okay.
I do private classes, but mostly they're groups, and I do them at the hospitals.
Okay, so let's talk about the class and then the advantages of the HypnoBirthing.
Yeah. So one of the things that we really do with HypnoBirthing classes, which sets us apart from other natural childbirth classes, is that we use the hypnosis, of course. That's where the hypno part of birthing comes from. But we really focus on all these fears that people are, you know, acquiring through the different birth stories. A lot of what happens with birth is that mothers pick up these stories that create fear in them, and that fear creates, you know, a lot of tension in their body. And as they go into birth, when they're tense, their body and the uterus can't function the way it was designed, so they end up actually creating the pain through the tension. So a lot of the classes are about releasing all these fears and letting them go, and also learning how to bring yourself into a state of hypnosis and to have deep relaxation as well. So we do a lot of fear release and a lot of learning how to do relaxation, how to do self-hypnosis. Each mother knows how to hypnotize herself through the class. The fathers are taught, or whoever the birth companion is taught how to hypnotize the mother and help her and be a very good support throughout the whole process. But we use a lot of techniques to help bring deep relaxation, to release fears, to have the mother feel very confident, to bond with her baby, because this, as we just talked about, the baby's very much aware of what the mother is experiencing, as well as other people in her environment. So we have the mother and her birth companion and anybody else in her family bond with this baby so it knows that it's loved, and that helps with the birth being much easier.
All right. So is there a level of relaxation that you would eventually get to that would block the pain receptors, or it just minimizes?
Actually, the philosophy with hypnobirthing is that we're not aiming to block pain, we're aiming to relax the body so pain never gets a chance to occur. The body is really designed, the uterus and how the birthing mother's body is designed is actually, there's absolutely no reason on a physiological level for there to be pain. Now, I know that there's a lot of mothers that have had births that didn't know hypnobirthing or anything about hypnosis and everything, and they experience pain. And I have a lot of trouble with convincing them that their body actually didn't need to have any experience of pain if they knew how to relax the body. But when the body is very relaxed, the mother's confident, and she has no fears, her uterus will work in the way that nature designed it to work, and it won't create any pain. The pain comes from her being afraid on some level, maybe a little bit of tension, or maybe something much larger, huge. And when she tenses up her body, the body starts to do a number of reactions, even on a hormonal level, muscle level, nervous system, and it causes the uterus not to work the way it was designed. There's a conflict going on in the body.
Right, which would create the tension
and tightness.
That creates
the tension, the tightness, and there's where the pain comes from. And so if you can learn to not have tension in your body, you won't have pain. And childbirth can be very comfortable.
And do they still push and?
Yeah, actually the body, when the baby is ready to be birthed, the body has its own way that it wants to push. It's a natural inclination to push, and the body will want to do it all on its own. And if you just let nature do what it was designed to do, the mother still pushes if she follows her body's lead, and the baby's born quite easily, actually a lot easier than if she's following doctors and nurses and other people trying to tell her how to push in a coached way.
Okay, so let's think. I want to go to actually the birthing room, and we're having babies, and that whole coaching part of it. So are they being coached by their companion on what to do, or are you listening to the doctor at that point, or are you pushing, not pushing?
We try to refrain from using coaching. It sort of sounds like something from a sporting event. So we have a bunch of different words we use in hypnobirthing.
Right, there's going to be a touchdown.
Supportive, their birth companion is being supportive. So they're taught a lot about how to be very supportive to the mother. They're also, as a couple, I give them a lot of instruction on how to interact with the doctors, because we don't want them, butting heads with the doctors and not listening to the doctors. I think the doctors are great people. I think that they have a lot of education. They're there with the best of intentions. They want the mother and the baby to be very healthy, but they're also schooled to have to be able to help when there's an emergency, when there's some kind of special circumstance and they need to help with the process, and that's what they're taught to do. But there's a lot that the mothers can do and the fathers together with their baby, where they can minimize the chances of all these special circumstances that arise. And they need to be able to trust themselves, to release fears, to do the things that I teach them that are supportive of this natural childbirth process. But then to also listen to the doctors in case something is really manifesting that needs to be attended to medically.
Okay, so you would work in partnership,
with
the doctor and the nursing staff.
Nurses,
okay. And now, do the doctors and nursing staff know that this would be a mom who's gone through hypnobirthing?
Yeah, she will plan ahead in the classes. I give them some direction on how to create a birth preferences document, and also she would discuss it with the doctor and the nurses, so that before she even goes into labor, they're already aware that she's going to be doing hypnobirthing. And these days, a lot of doctors and nurses have had experience with hypnobirthing, and so they kind of know how things move along. I've had many nurses say they love when a hypnobirthing couple comes in, because they know it's going to be very calm and peaceful, and they love working with couples that have done hypnobirthing.
All right, well, that's good.
Yeah.
So walk through then, you know, what's the day of, we're getting close, you know, still with, you know, she still feels contractions, and then through that, what happens?
Well, as she's preparing for the day to arrive, we're doing a lot of bonding with the baby and teaching her how to hypnotize herself so she can be very relaxed, that she can access that state easily. Then when the labor begins, she's already conditioned her mind and her body to start relaxing. And we give lots of suggestions through hypnosis that when the contractions begin, or actually I call them surges because it's a more calming word to use, or waves, that when those surges begin, that she's already received hypnotic suggestions and conditioned her body for relaxation. So once labor begins, she will actually become more relaxed. She'll listen to the CDs. They get some CDs in the class. These are the materials that the class gets. We have a textbook, and that has a CD in it, and then she gets a second CD, and she'll be listening to the CDs. She has been listening to them for weeks, if not months before, and they've helped her to prepare for this big day. So as her labor progresses, she'll become more and more relaxed. She's taught breathing techniques. Some techniques help to relax her deeper. One of the breathing techniques helps her to breathe through these surges so that she can really turn this birthing process over to her body and breathe through those surges. And then she has another breathing technique that's for when the baby's being born, when the baby's crowning and coming through the birth path and out into this world. She has a technique for that.
Okay. I mean, it sounds like, oh, kind of floating on a cloud, and just going to let everything just kind of happen the way it should.
And it is not like we just sit back and all happens. They are very active in their labor. It can have moments where it's very intense. Particularly as their body, the cervix is really opening up. It can be very intense, but that intensity doesn't have to mean that it's painful, not if you're relaxed. It can be very intense. You can have to spend a lot of time just being with your body and relaxing and being with your baby, sending your baby love, and just being present to what your body's doing and doing the breathing that I teach them. So it need not be uncomfortable, but it can be very intense. Labor is still work. Okay. And sit back and just let everything happen. Although I've seen some births through video. I don't attend births myself. I hear about them afterwards, and we have a collection of birth videos where it actually looks like the mother's just sitting back and everything's happening, and they're amazing.
Right. I mean, I'd so much rather see those than the ones that are on TV where everything is dramatic and full of trauma. And, you know, all craziness, because that can't be good either. Yeah,
and I've seen a number of birth videos too where they are doing natural childbirth, but they haven't been taught hypnobirthing. And they're very different. Those mothers are very determined, courageous women, but it would be nice if some of those natural childbirths, if they had some hypnosis in there to help make themselves a lot more comfortable and peaceful through the process.
Right, because I imagine that, you know, I mean, a peaceful birth would yield peaceful little babies.
Yes, yeah. We have a lot of amazing outcomes that we have. We go back and we talk to the mothers that go through this class, all the practitioners. The HypnoBirthing Institute that trained me will contact mothers and find out. We have a lot of outcomes. Like, we know that babies are born much more alert, more aware. They seem to be more peaceful. They sleep better at night. They just, you know, they seem to be healthier and in their personalities vibrant. And they adjust well afterwards. I did hypnobirthing when I birthed my daughter back in 2008, and I remember when she was born, and she's just was so alert, and she's looking at everybody, and she's got like the big eyes.
Right, because she's probably already
she's interacting with people already just moments after her birth, because she didn't have, you know, this traumatic birth and had to recover from it and have the other things that can influence the child's health. And I myself, as all hypnobirthing mothers will attest to, you feel great after you give birth. I was not exhausted afterwards. I was feeling fine, and the recovery after a birth is, you bounce back a lot better.
Wow.
Yeah.
Right. How would people find out about this if there were, you know, young people or women that were pregnant, and maybe nobody's ever talked to them about this.
Yeah, and that's the thing that we struggle with all natural childbirth classes, including hypnobirthing, is that you know, most of the births that go through the hospital are your traditional births. The doctors are very familiar with mothers saying, I just want the epidural, or schedule me for a C-section even. Some of them just schedule, I know that's scary to me, that they would just schedule a C-section, but they don't know what their options are. They don't know that there's a different way.
Right. Yeah.
They've heard all these scary stories and they figure it's going to just be that way. That's how birth is. They don't realize what's at play with the fear and the tension. And if they've already had one child, they've already produced that effect with the first one, so they're convinced with the rest. But they don't realize there are other options, and but there are. So there's a number of doctors in this area and midwives and nurses that will tell the patients, hey, there's an option here. You could do this naturally. And you know, there are classes for it. So it's becoming a bit more aware, but we're still working on, you know, awareness for the
Right, well, that's what we're all about, is getting the message out there.
Exactly, that's why I'm here.
You know, yes, that if, you know, if you're pregnant, or that you know, want to become pregnant soon, that this is a class that's offered just right up on the hill, you know, I mean,
they can
not that far.
call the Simon's Herd Complementary Care Center, and we've got, you know, the dates of the classes there, and I know they're working on building a website, so more of this information for all the courses that are there are up there. But Kim and Lynn that are there can certainly answer questions, and they can call me. Anybody who needs more information can always give me a call, and I'll give them all the information they need.
How soon would they start classes or be like enrolled in a hypnobirthing program?
I like them to take it as soon as they find out about hypnobirthing. I know some practitioners prefer that they wait closer to their due date. That's not my approach. Certainly if they found out about it close to their due date, I'd still want to talk to them, see if they have enough time to take the classes, maybe do it private with me as a shorter amount of time. But if they found out about it, you know, months before their due date. I mean, I had a mother take the class as soon as she found out she was pregnant.
Okay.
And she had months to listen to the CDs, read the book. We have a folder. She had a folder full of handouts and everything, all these things to practice. She had an incredible, incredible birth.
Okay.
She had a lot of time to prepare. And it's not that if somebody finds out about it close to the due date, they're not going to have it. You know, they'll still do wonderful. We've had some amazing births for people who find out at the last minute, and they're like, I want to do that. I wish I knew sooner, but I'm here.
All right, good.
So, yeah.
All right, so classes, I mean, this show will definitely air before November, so the classes are starting in November.
Yeah, I think it's November 11th is when the classes begin.
All right, 5 Mondays.
5 Mondays, 6 to 8:30 in the evening.
Okay.
And
up at the complementary
this
care?
one's going to be in Fitchburg, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're running a series now that's in Leominster on that campus, but the one in November will be in Fitchburg.
All right.
And then we tend to alternate them. I don't have dates for next year, but will soon.
All right,
So,
and Lynn will keep me, you know, always informed.
Posted,
Yes, always informed.
And I post them on my website, so if you know, if anybody visits my website, they just go to the HypnoBirthing page of my website. Now, once I know the dates, I put them up there.
All right. In closing, what would you like newly expected mothers to know, or populate, you know, our general public population to know about hypnobirthing?
That there's another way to do birth. That it doesn't have to look like the way TV shows and movies have portrayed it, or especially all these stories that you hear from people you do know that are scary. That birth can be comfortable. It can be easier. It can be done without pain medication. You can do this without having pain, that there are other options. I wish mothers knew that, and that there's just such a role that our fears play with how our body functions, and especially in birthing.
Right, always options. You know, that's always has been the common thread through all of the shows that we've done here, is that there's always an option. You know what I mean? If you're not satisfied with the answer that you get from Dr. A, then we get you, you know, to Dr. B and C and D until it works for you.
Yeah, and even if a mother's not sure she wants to do natural childbirth, I mean, I might have to work with her with some fear release around that, but if she's not sure about natural childbirth, I still would like to see those mothers in here, just so that I can help them feel more relaxed and more confident going into the birth. That benefits the baby, you know, when they can like be looking forward to a birth months in advance,
right.
their stress levels are much reduced. It's healthier for their body and for the babies. The
well, and I
baby's
imagine
healthier,
those
they're healthier.
happy little endorphins that are created when you think about how wonderful it will be, you know, get absorbed and patterned right on to the little baby.
Yeah, those endorphins are what gets produced when you're feeling confident and relaxed and happy and you're anticipating in a real positive way. All these endorphins get produced throughout the body, and they're the body's natural painkiller anyways, but really with hypnobirthing, we're not letting the body even get a chance to create pain. We're eliminating the reason why it would. So
it's fascinating. Thank you for taking the time to be here.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. This was great.
You know, we'll tell Lynn that you did a great job. You know, as always, all of the staff up there does a great job.
Yeah, they do.
Viewers,
they do.
right? Make sure that you take the time to look into the hypnobirthing technique. You do not have to be in pain. Make sure that you take care of yourself, take care of others. Until next week, be well.